All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm finally getting around to reviewing something that's been taking me too long to get to, my review of The Lone Ranger. This was actually a very difficult one to really put a call on, but I finally got it. I finally understand how to rate it and all that, and unfortunately, I do have to agree with the other critics. The movie just is unworthy, unfortunately. Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer do try their best, but the movie is just very disjointed. It's too much. This is a case of basically throwing in too many plots, some of which don't belong. For example, one of the sideline stories here has to deal with the train connecting the United States from East Coast to West Coast using the trains, and that never happened in Texas. But of course, they had to make it happen in Texas to make sure we could add it to the story where it doesn't belong, you know? They overcomplicated things, they changed things, and this is something I'm not very happy about. For one thing, when I first saw the picture, and this is the very first picture I saw, not the poster, mind you, but when I first saw Johnny Depp wearing that raven over his head, that really bothered me. They do explain why he looks this way, they do explain the bird, they give it a very point of view type of thing. They changed a lot of it from the original days of Clayton Moore and Jay Silverheels. For example, the Lone Ranger is more of a student in this case. He is not really a cop. He is a prosecutor. He still wants to bring law and order and believes in the system. However, now he's a lawyer. Okay, he's not a Texas Ranger per se. He does get deputized. So they make him the Texas Ranger. He does become the Lone Ranger. And you know what's amazing? It's amazing how much, as much as they changed, how much they kept the same. The beginning story is always the same. And yes, I did watch the original show before I did this review. I wanted to get a sense of what it was really like. And I have to say, it's on Hulu.com. If you have a chance, watch the original Lone Ranger and understand why and how it became such a legend and everything. You know, this is a radio show that went from a TV show, but believe it or not, could never really make it as a movie. That said, one other interesting fact about the Lone Ranger, if you watch the first episode, you have to remember it used to be a radio show, and the format didn't change when they altered it. So they still kept it a radio show as a TV show. I know it sounds confusing, but you'll understand when you see the show. Back to the review. Here, in the new version of the Lone Ranger that came out this year, the Lone Ranger, John Reed, is more naive. He's not as quick, and he's not as easy to handle himself in these situations. We are back to what we saw in the Green Lantern and the Green Hornet. I'm surprised they didn't call this the Green Ranger, in that we have the last person you would really suspect to be the hero would be the hero. Tonto. Tonto gets changed from being the sidekick and the guy who ran like the errands and stuff, like you would see in the original show, to more of the mentor. He's the Obi-Wan Kenobi now. He's the guy guiding him. Very reluctantly, I must say. And that part of the movie was supposed to be funny. It's supposed to have its moments. It's one of those moments that really turned me off. The idea that these two would be at odds more than they would be together on something. They would be like more against each other. But then again, it was the idea that he had a point of view, he had a point of view, and it's more of coming to terms with this other person. You do also understand that Tonto has a very traumatic event, almost in line with the original. However, in the original story, Tonto and the Lone Ranger were childhood friends who reunited for their adventures. Here they were complete strangers, and they finally decided to get along, even though I never felt that came around. The ending was way too rushed. From point A to point B, a little rushed, but it all made sense. Now here's the ultimate statement about the Lone Ranger, the new version. It has everything it really is supposed to have it, except for the train. Didn't have to have a train, but you know what? I'll let it slide. You have here a retelling that added too much stuff, was way too long, 2.5 hours too long, and nothing was ultimately wrong. Nothing really struck me as being horrible. There were the normal cliches, the usual appearances. Nothing's different, okay? That's the problem, though. It doesn't offer us anything very exciting because we've seen this all before. It's an old tale. It's an old telling of an old legend. They try to alter it, but it just doesn't work. That's the ultimate problem. I really cannot blame the actors. If I were to point fingers, and normally I don't, this time I will, I will point them at the director, I will point them at the writers, because I felt that they could have done a better job. Now remember, this is a disaster movie, meaning it was a disaster to make. They would film a scene, and then they would have to go back and redo the scene completely differently because the writers decided to rewrite the scene right then and there. You know, there was a huge accident. That's really the reason why this was such a big production. $250 million. Okay, it's not because they put it all in the special effects and stuff. It's because they had a horrible accident and had to rebuild from scratch. Okay, and so yes, this is one of those movies that it was by the sheer will of the Hollywood gods that this was even finished. But unfortunately, it wasn't finished very well. Wasn't just doesn't click. That's the real problem I had with this movie. It just didn't click, especially like these guys did. These guys clicked. These guys gave you someone to root for, some action, some excitement, a challenge. Not really sure how they're going to be able to overcome it, considering that the odds are so against them. And so if you're gonna watch The Lone Ranger, stick with the original, guys. It's the best. Clayton Moore definitely has it. Jay Silverhill had it. These are just great actors who really knew how to deliver the story. Well, that's it for me. We will see you at the theaters real soon here with some more reviews. Also, guys, don't forget to go check out my site, PozzibleMovieReviews.com. We have sponsorship now. We got sponsors from GoDaddy and sponsors from Redbox. If you're looking to stream your movies, if you like Redbox, you want to stream your stuff from the TV set from Redbox and Verizon, check out my site, PozzibleMovieReviews.com, and they can help you get you set up. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time.